My guest is making his second appearance on the pod. He's the driver of the number 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. I'm excited to welcome Aric Almirola.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. That's way better, by the way. Our internet was acting a little spotty there, so you sound good on my end.
Nice. Well, you're coming through perfect. So let's do it.
Yeah. So Aric, anybody new to our channel, Aric was on the podcast for episode 56. We got video of it on YouTube. It'll be in the playlist. So we're not going to cover like all of his backstory and his history because we've already done that before, but please make sure to check that out. But we're recording today on 3/29. We just finished COTA, and I wanted to ask you just how do you feel about the start of the season so far?
Yeah, right quick before I answer that, what podcast number are you on now?
This is, I believe, 110, 109.
110. Wow. So you've done over 50 more podcasts since we did that last year.
Yeah, we've been churning them out.
Nice.
It's been a lot of fun. The video we didn't start doing initially, but I wish we had because there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with video. And I mean, I was checking out your channel too prior to this, and it's having that video element just adds to what you can do so much, And
Yeah, and it brings a little bit more of like a tangible feel to it, right? It just makes you a little bit more connected. Seeing the video element.
for sure. And I do think more people being at home during the pandemic were just watching more stuff on video.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
prior to, I was like, I wanted to start a podcast. I was like, there's got to be people in their car all the time commuting. And then as soon as the pandemic
Right.
hit, our numbers just like dropped because it was less people were listening. They didn't have that daily
Yeah.
commute. So
Not everybody's walking around with AirPods in their ears while they're vacuuming their house.
exactly. But
Yeah.
it seems to be coming back in terms of our audio numbers. But yeah,
Cool.
it's been a lot of fun. And so
Nice.
you we're through what, 6 races now? And
Yeah, I believe so. And we just finished up at COTA. Anybody that knows me well enough knows that road racing's not my jam. I
yeah,
don't love it. I can hold my own. I'm average at best. But yeah, COTA was wild and crazy. All of our races, honestly, this year have been, and but specifically the road course races always are. And for people that enjoy watching road racing, NASCAR has to be so thrilling to them because if you watch most sports car racing, they're making passes where like the guy's turning his blinker on and like waving the other guys by. It's very gentleman like
yeah.
esque, and there's not a lot of bumping and rubbing
Mhm.
in most sports car racing. And Formula One, yeah, of course, it's intense. Mostly just on the start, and then once the start kind of happens, it's kind of over for the most part in Formula One. Where our sport, like we are just cannibals. That's what I was telling you before we started. It's like you have 40 really hungry kids and there's only one piece of cake left,
Yeah.
right? And it's like everybody's pushing and shoving and running into each other, and we are just we have really no rules. The only rules is to not wreck your own car.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we put on some pretty wild road course races.
Yeah, it seemed that way across series too, because I was in Medford, Oregon. I was doing like a gig out there, and they had the truck series stuff on during the day. I watched the Xfinity series, and it was just like everybody was just banging. It was fun to watch, but it even the guys that were like cup drivers driving in those other series, like they were banging too.
Yeah,
I'm like, this isn't an inexperienced thing. This is just everybody's going for it.
for sure. Like when you see most road races, there's like distinct passing zones, and like this part of the racetrack this is a passing zone, and this part of the racetrack, into the brake zone, that's a passing zone. But for us, like every single spot on the racetrack is an opportunity, is a passing zone. And so I guess it's just our mentality, the way that we race in NASCAR. But We don't really view like specific spots on the racetrack as passing zones or not passing zones. It's like, hey, if
If
that
you
guy
can
makes
make
a
it
mistake,
work.
or if he's slower than you through that section, then you stuff it in there and you try and pass him. And if it means that you bang wheels and he runs off the course, then so be it. That's just kind of our style of racing. And
That's so funny.
I think it's different because our cars, to that point, our cars don't really break apart like Formula One cars do or Indy cars do. If Formula One cars have contact, they rip wings off and they get tire punctures and they tear up suspension and all kind of stuff, where like we run into each other and it's usually not a big deal.
Yeah. And how has that been? I know the next gen is a touchy subject across the board for drivers and teams, so I want to be respectful of that. But how has this was the first road course, like
right,
the first like test of that on that course. What was it like, and what is the best politically correct way of you talking about this car?
So these cars are specifically designed for this type of racing, just to be really honest. We do a large majority of our racing on oval tracks, and this car is not a true oval track car, right? Like when we go race at racetracks where we just make left-hand turns around an oval, we in the past built specific cars for that. Everything on the car was offset to the left, right?
Yeah.
You ran more weight on the left side of the car because you were constantly going to the left. The cars, the tread width on the cars, the suspension, everything was offset to the left so that we could go around the racetrack. Even so much as the body on the car was built almost in like a banana shape on the right side of the car. So that way, when the air hit the right side of the car, it would hold the right side of the car more stable going around the left-hand corners, right? Because you think about the force when you're going to the left. If you're sitting in the seat of the car, you're going to the left, your body wants to go to the right, right?
Yeah.
Well, the car wants to do the same thing. Like you're trying to make it go to the left as fast as you can, and the car naturally wants to go in a straight line.
Yeah.
Physics. So the car wants to slide to the right. So we would design the cars to turn left and the aerodynamics to hold the right side of the car.
Mm-hmm.
These cars now, the new car, the next gen car, is symmetrical. Everything on it is symmetrical. The weight on it is symmetrical. The suspension is symmetrical. The body on it is not offset. It's very symmetrical. So this car is designed to be a more road race type car, to go left and right because it's symmetrical. And so COTA was the first test for it, and I thought it passed with flying colors. It has bigger brakes than we've ever had in the past. We used to run 15-inch wheels. And
19 now?
Yeah, 18. Now we're 18. So we've got more room to get brake rotors packaged inside the wheels and bigger calipers. So the braking system's much better. Sequential gearbox now, where we used to have a 4-speed H pattern. Now it's a 5-speed that's sequential. So a lot of things different about this car that make it more road race specific.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I forgot to mention this earlier though. If you are watching, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss our content. Doing those 3 things will help us with the YouTube algorithm, so more Aric Almirola fans can check out this episode. Share it with a friend if you can. I did want to ask, like with this new car, there's a couple things. I listened to the Dale Jr. podcast with a couple guys you would know, and parts availability is a big like concern. And after a race like COTA, where everybody is, I mean, you had a strong start to the season where it was what, like fifth, and sixth.
Yeah, that's right.
So like you guys have been taking care of your cars pretty well, but
yeah,
NASCAR's moved to this modular, like, put together your car and go, but it's a specific set of suppliers. Like, has it been a constant churn in the shop? Like not just your team, but other teams, and have you guys run into any issues yourself?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is across the entire nation, right? We've all heard about supply chain issues. If you haven't, you've been living under a rock. So it's everywhere. It's not just specific to our industry, but with all the supply chain issues across the nation, we have started a brand new car with all new parts and pieces and all these things. And so all of our old parts and pieces from our race cars that we've ran for the last 7-8 years are obsolete. They are no good on this car. They don't fit the car. They don't meet the specifications to be run on this car per the rules. So we have had no choice but to rely on the single source vendors that supply the parts and pieces for this car to be built.
Mhm.
And because of that, these single source vendors are taxed to the max with this task of supplying all 40 race teams with their parts and pieces that they need. And they're behind on, we were supposed to start the season with 7 cars. The original plan for this car was for each team to have 7 cars built and ready to go for the season per car number, right? So like the 10 team would have 7 cars, the 4 team would have 7 cars, the 48, the
280
11,
cars across the series.
Across the series, right? And instead, we've started the season with 2 cars, and now we're up to 2.7 cars. Like, we've got enough parts and pieces to build almost a 3rd car to start the season. And there's a lot of parts that are becoming consumables that nobody intended them being consumables. Everybody thought these were parts that were going to be very robust and you would take them from car to car, and that's not been the case. So it's been challenging from an industry side to make it all work, because in the past the teams were responsible, right? The teams were responsible for building their cars and getting their cars to the racetrack to meet the rules. And so we have our own machine shop, right? We have our own carbon fiber shop. We have all these resources at our fingertips. And so if we were low on supply on something, we would just
build it,
turn it over to the machine shop and say, we need these and we need them tomorrow. And they would work an overnight shift, and tomorrow we would have 50 of them. Or, if it's control arms, we would say we're low on, upper control arms. We need upper control arms built. And within a couple of days, we'd have everything we need. But we're one team, one organization servicing just 4 teams, right?
Yeah.
Now you've put all of this pressure on one vendor to supply it to all the race teams. And so not only are they trying to get caught up on new purchase orders, they're trying to now then fulfill all these orders coming in to fix crash damage. And so, like, not only can they not keep up with all the new orders that have been placed to try and get us up to that 7 car allotment, we're wrecking parts and pieces across the industry week after week after week. So now they're trying to run at a rampant pace just to get these teams that have wrecked parts back able to go to the racetrack with the parts and pieces they needed. So it has been a challenge, kind of behind the scenes, with just the industry as a whole, trying to make sure that we have enough parts and pieces to go to the racetrack each week.
And I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I have to imagine with the new car, people are wrecking more just from a comfort standpoint, and not
not knowing the limit, right? Like, we showed up to all these racetracks for years and we knew the limits and capabilities, and every once in a while you would overstep the boundaries, for sure, and we would wreck in racing in tight quarters and stuff. But this is a brand new car and we don't really understand the limits totally, and we don't know how it races around in traffic around each other. And so
Atlanta was a pretty good
exactly
good collection of everything, where it's like different track style, different body, and the supply chain issues was just all of the above.
Yeah. So yeah, with anything that's new, you always expect there to be a learning curve, and
Mhm.
there's a learning curve from the teams and the engineers, the drivers, and through the learning curve, you break some stuff, you
Yeah.
wreck some stuff, right? Like, and even in like just other industries as well, like with product development and
Oh,
like
for sure.
trying to figure out how you're going to roll out this new vehicle or new thing, right? Like you go through product development and you take it to its limit and you break it and you crash it and you do all these things to prove it out and to fix any sort of issues. Well, we're doing that on the fly throughout our race season. So yeah, it's been fun, it's been interesting, it's been chaotic, it's been a lot of things, but I think all of that has come together to really drive interest in ratings as well. Our sport's doing really well when it comes to interest in viewership.
Yeah, it's interesting because the last time we talked, that we were talking about the limitations due to COVID in terms of practice, and like you have this like whole ramp up cycle where like you guys didn't get the practice that you normally got, and
Right.
then you go into this season with a massive amount of change to the car, and then the number of road courses has increased, the actual tracks themselves have changed, and it's been a lot of like, as a fan it's exciting, but like there's just so much that's moving, and I and you personally have had a lot of like change in terms of what I mean, you announced your retirement.
Yeah.
How has that affected like your outlook on the season, and like how do you feel overall with that announcement?
Yeah, our season has gotten off to a great start. I'm having, I'm eighth in points. Currently, I think like 36 points out of the lead or something like that. So, in a really good spot, off to arguably the best start of my career. So that has gone well. I don't know that I would attribute that to the fact that I announced that I'm retiring. I would attribute it more to the fact that we've had fast cars. I've ran smart races. My new crew chief, Drew Blickensurfer, is doing a great job with our team and leading our team. So there's a lot of different things going on that I think amount to us getting off to a great start. But to answer your question, announcing that I am retiring has changed a lot for me. Like I feel way more relaxed. I feel way less pressure. And I'm just kind of enjoying it more. Like, I don't know, I almost feel like a kid again, where, when you race or when you do anything as for a hobby, is really passion driven, and it's because you love it. And when you do it for a hobby, most of the time, you're not collecting a paycheck, right? You're just doing it because you love it.
Yeah.
As soon as you transition to collecting a paycheck, it becomes a job, no matter what it is. Like, it
Sure.
doesn't matter if you're an artist, right? Or if you are a race car driver, or if you love computers and you're an IT guy. You can do all of these things as a hobby, but as soon as you start collecting a paycheck and you depend on that paycheck,
Yeah.
it becomes a job, period. Plain and simple. So for me, announcing that I'm retiring, like, I don't know, like, there's something that's changed to where now, like, yes, of course, I'm still a professional race car driver. Yes, I'm still collecting a paycheck. But I don't have that pressure to collect the next paycheck
Yeah,
anymore,
it
right?
seems like it's always tied to, if the results aren't there, it's going
It's
to
result
affect your
driven
ability
to
to
get the next
continue
contract.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And absolutely. And so it is, we live, and rightfully so, all sports are, and honestly, most of life is very result driven, right?
Mhm.
Like, you put in effort, you get results. You have good results, you get more opportunity,
You're
right?
not a
Like,
participation trophy guy.
no, I'm not a participation trophy guy. And so because of that, going into this year, my effort's still the same. my preparation's still the same. My focus is still the same, like all these things. But yet at the same time, what's different is I kind of feel liberated to the fact that like, I don't have to fret about the next contract. I don't have to fret or worry about corporate sponsorship. Like, are they going to be here? Are they not? What is that going to look like? Is that going to affect my ability to race or not? All of that kind of worry and stress is gone. And I am loving it. Like it feels like it should, to be a race car driver. It feels fun, and it feels like when I was a kid again, where I'm just doing it because I love to do it.
So here's a question for you though. Say this season goes lights out and you win it all.
Mic drop.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not going to be any itch that's like, you got to keep going. I mean, is there any?
Yeah. So I've said this quite a bit. Like, I am retiring from full-time racing. And I even said that in my announcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when the checker flag flies at Homestead and the races are over, I'm not going to never strap in. I know if any English teacher is watching this, I know I said I'm not never. I know you're not supposed to have double negatives. I'm learning about this, helping my kids through grammar right now in 3rd grade. But I'm still going to say that I am not going to never get back in a race car again. Right? Like, I love to race. It's what I love to do. And it's still going to be something I enjoy for a long time down the road. Like, I'm still only 38 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What I want out of retirement is to have a little bit more control of my schedule. I want to be able to be home on the weekends and, go to Alex's baseball or football games, or Abby's theater performance, and all those things. Like, I want to not always have to miss them.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. When I have a friend or a cousin or somebody in my family getting married, I want to be able to go to their wedding if I want to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to, like I want that.
If you want to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes you get invited and be like, oh
no,
man,
I'm good.
did they really? I wish they wouldn't have sent me an invitation. But I've never had that opportunity. I've been racing as a professional since I was 19 years old. And from the time I've been 19 years old, it doesn't matter if it's been a grandparent that's passed away or somebody close to me. I've not been to a funeral that's, if it's happened on the weekend. I've not been to a wedding unless it's happened in December, right? If it has to happen off season for me to be able to go, I can't call in sick to a race. I can't say, hey, I'm going to miss this weekend because it's really important to my son to be at his whatever. Or my daughter's having a dance recital and I really should be there for that. I'm going to be there. Like, I can't do that because I have chose to be a professional race car driver, and I'm not complaining about that, but retirement is going to be able to afford me to do that and make my schedule a little bit more my own. But I'm still going to race. Like, I'm still going to, if there's an opportunity to go strap in a late model and go race at a local short track somewhere, I'm going to go do it. If there's an opportunity to go run a handful of cup races somewhere and we can get the funding and it's with a good team and I can make it work, I'm going to do it. If I can go run an Xfinity race or a truck race and it's at a track that I like and it's going to be fun, I'm going to go do it. I just don't want to do it 40 weeks a year anymore. Like 40 weeks a year, plus the off-season testing, plus all the preseason testing and the media stuff. Like 40 weeks a year of competition turns into year round. I basically get from Thanksgiving week to New Year's Day off. And even in that time, it's not off. I'm doing photo shoots and commercial shoots and everything for our corporate partners so that when the new season launches, they have all the new content that they need to be able to launch their new marketing campaigns for that season. Yeah. So even the off season is not off. And that's the part that doing that since I was 19 years old and now I'm 38, it's been a grind. And so that for me is what retirement is about kind of getting away from the grind a little bit, but not racing. Like I'm not excited to walk away from racing and never touch a steering wheel again.
It's the off track stuff that you're looking forward to getting away from the most.
Yeah, just a lot of
The
when
stuff
you are,
that's not racing related.
yeah, when you are a professional or professional athlete, or there's a lot of extra things that pull you in so many different ways, outside of just being a race car driver, right? Like if all I had to do was show up and get strapped in the race car and go race, like I could do that forever. Like that, I love that. And not that I don't love all the other stuff, because I really enjoy people. Like I'm a people person,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy like connecting with people. But you get pulled in so many different directions, and I am a people pleaser. And so I hate to disappoint people.
Yeah.
And because of that, I have a hard time saying no. And so you get pulled in a million different directions. You feel like you have to do it all, and you just get run down, with all of the expectations, and requests that are put on your plate.
Yeah, man. And I have to imagine like all the time just lingering over your head is like, oh, I got to worry about the race on Sunday, right? Like I feel the same way with comedy a little bit, where there are things you got to do in order to like get on stage.
Right.
Those have nothing to do with what you do on stage.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
it's a balancing act. I think as long as you have some balance, but it's like, I'm curious to see what you end up doing. I know we're a little pressed on time, and I got some really good questions from folks, so I want to go into those.
Sure.
But before moving into that, just a reminder: if you enjoyed this episode so far, hit the like and subscribe button. Also, hit the notifications bell in the top right corner so you don't miss any of our content. Doing that will help us with the YouTube algorithm, and throw in a comment if you got one. That helps quite a bit too. So first question, this was on the Aric Almirola fan page on Facebook. Mark Rice, how big of a difference has Drew made as the new crew chief?
He's made a huge impact and a big difference. And I would say the biggest difference is just the way that he leads the team. He's a cheerleader. He gets the guys motivated and pumped up. He's very, very positive. And so he has been a great addition to the team just from that aspect of he's a people person. He gets along with everybody. He's got a great personality, very charismatic. So, you can put him in any sort of personnel situation and he will adapt and fit in, and he's very likable. So that's been great, having him come on board and be the type of team leader that he is. It's been really good. And I think he's brought about kind of a freshness to the race team, and kind of rejuvenated our team.
Yeah, I don't want to ask anything specifically that could lead to like negative perceptions or whatever, but as a driver, like how important is it for you to have that type of relationship with your crew chief?
It's really important. I mean, you depend on that guy. You depend on him for everything, right? Like I drive the car, but I'm not in charge of the engineers designing the setup. I'm not in charge of the pit crew. I'm not in charge of, the guys in the shop. Like I'm a part of it, right? And people see me as the figurehead for our team. But at the end of the day, Drew is the crew chief, right? Like he is, in sports terms, Drew is the head coach.
Yeah.
And I am like the quarterback, right? Like Tom Brady, of course, is involved with what's going on with special teams, and he knows the people, and he's in the same locker room as them, but he's not studying film with special teams, and he's not telling them what to do, right?
Yeah.
And so when the Bucks win, Tom Brady is kind of the guy, right? And he gets all the spotlight, but he wasn't telling the right guard on special teams what to do on what play. But the head coach is involved in all of those things, right? The head coach has not only a personal relationship with all the players on the team, but he also is involved in the decision-making processes. Same for Drew. Drew's involved with all the personnel, but he's also involved with all the decision-making processes from all of the personnel. And so I depend on Drew heavily for all of that stuff. And I depend on Drew to be my guy, right? Like, we have to have a good relationship because we communicate about the most important thing, the race car. If the race car is not fast and it's not doing what I want it to do, I'm not going to be able to go fast in it. And so him and I having a good relationship is important. And as a race car driver, it's a lonely feeling sometimes. Like, you are out there on the racetrack, you're strapped into the race car, you feel like you're, just driving your butt off, you're racing for your life, and you're out there all alone. You feel all alone, right? But you have a team of several hundred people back at the shop and 20 people that weekend that are, specific to your car. But when you're strapped in the car and you're out on the racetrack, you feel alone. And so the crew chief and the spotter together, I rely on them to kind of be my sounding board and oftentimes my cheerleader. Like, I need them to pump me up when things aren't going good because I'm already mad about the situation, or I'm mad about myself or whatever. And so them being positive and a positive influence and cheerleading and all those things is very helpful.
Yeah, I have to imagine too, it's just a personality meshing to
Yeah.
communication styles and like what you're saying to him, if said in a certain way. I mean, I don't know. Everybody's been in enough bad relationships to get that.
Well, it's finicky. It's finicky too, because, again, the driver, like, I drive the car and it's my job to drive the car to the best of my ability and to the max potential of the car's capability. But then I have to complain about the car if the car's not doing what I want it to, right? Like, I have to complain and say, like, the car's not turning the corner like I need it to, or it doesn't have enough traction in the rear tires, like getting off the corner. And so when I am making comments about the car, different people can perceive that differently. Like, I'm giving feedback about the car. If you fix these things, we'll go faster. I'll go faster. But then some crew chiefs get their feelings hurt, right? Because the crew chiefs, like, the race car is their baby. Like, they've put a lot of thought and effort into the car and designing the setup and everything that goes into the car. So they sometimes can get offended when you're saying the car won't do X because I need it to do this. And they'll get offended and get upset because you're complaining about something that they've spent 100 hours on or more preparing to get it ready for you to go to that race.
But to play devil's advocate too, are there times where the crew chief has like a bigger picture that in that moment as a driver you can't see, and it ends up as long as you trust their judgment?
For sure. Like pit calls and things like that. As far as the balance of the car, the best thing is for the crew chief to always believe the driver. If the driver says it's loose, try and figure out an adjustment to make the car tighter. If the driver says it's tight, figure out an adjustment to try and make the car looser. Like, just believe what he's saying, because if you fix what he's saying 9 times out of 10, the driver's going to go faster because they're going to feel more comfortable with the race car doing what they want it to do. But then from pit strategy calls, like, I have to rely heavily on Drew because he can see the full picture. He knows what fuel mileage we're getting. He knows how the tires are wearing. Like, when the tires come off the car on a pit stop, after we've run them for 50, 60, 70 laps, they come off the car. I can't see them, but they come off the car. They put new ones on and I leave pit road. Well, they take the old ones off and they take them behind the pit box. and they examine them and look at them, and they look at how the tire's wearing and all of those things. So he has to make judgment calls based off the knowledge that he has and he sees way more of how the race is playing out based on tire wear, fuel mileage, what other competitors are doing, all of those things that I can't see.
Yeah, this is one aspect of NASCAR that it sort of drives me crazy, because like being in Washington, there's not the fans of the sport up here that there are in other parts of the country. And like the science behind what these guys are doing, and
Sure.
for you with an engineering background and stuff, it's not like, there's that running joke, it's just turn left or whatever, but like the just going through the actual structural changes to the car that changes the tires, the single lug nut, new brakes, all this stuff, the aerodynamics with the diffuser, like there's so much interesting stuff. And it's this like big gap between it. To me, it feels like baseball almost, where people that see baseball, they're like, oh, that sport's boring. But if you know what's going on in the game, it's like a duck on water with the feet turning. Like there's so much. And I think NASCAR's doing a better job of breaking that down for people, but there's just been a big gap. Like,
I agree. I totally agree. I think that so, for the Daytona 500, we have millions of people tune in, right, to watch the Daytona 500. The rest of the year, depending on the race, we average between, I would say, 4.5 and 8 million viewers, depending on the race and the weekend and all those things. The Daytona 500 blows those out of the water. We're millions more than an average race that tune in, but there's still 350 or 360 million Americans, right? So that means a lot of people are not watching NASCAR.
Yeah.
And the people that casually do tune in have no idea like how much goes into putting that race on, like the engineering and all the things behind it. And the best way that I know how to explain it to people, like kind of what we do, for them to be able to have any sort of, ability to relate, is imagine you're going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour, right? You're not speeding. You're doing the speed limit. You're going down the interstate. You're on cruise control. And then you come up to one of those exit ramps that circles around. Try leaving your car on cruise control and make it to the bottom of the exit ramp, right? Like, it would get way more exciting, right? And do you think you could do that in a semi truck? No, it would topple over because it's heavy, right? But if you got in a Ford Mustang or a Ford GT or whatever, like, it's way lower to the ground. And because of the center of gravity and all of the engineering that goes into it, the downforce that it creates, all those things, you have a way higher chance of making it off that exit ramp without crashing or going off the road. That's what we do for 500 miles. We try and go 200 miles an hour in a straight line down a straightaway. And then we try and make that corner at 170 miles an hour and go back the opposite direction and accelerate from 170 back up to 200 miles an hour, and then do it again, right? And we do it over and over and over. But every single lap, we are trying to defy the law of physics. Yeah. And the way that we're doing that is through a tremendous amount of engineering. And it's not just, a bunch of old rednecks chewing tobacco and, going out there in our wingtips and in coveralls and trying to just go faster than the next guy. Like, our sport started out that way. Mm-hmm. But we have evolved so much into what we're doing now. It really is, very, very engineering driven.
Side question. Have you ever tried to make that 70 mile an hour exit turn?
Yes.
Have you?
Yeah. I mean, so the beauty of it is, if you try and do it on cruise control, you can, if you feel like you're not going to make it, you could always stab the brake, right? Yeah. Like, but the fun factor is trying to make it. But like, even thinking about that, right? Like,
Oh,
Just
it's
even me thinking about it, like if you can just close your eyes and picture trying to do that, like trying to make the exit ramp on cruise control at 70, your first instinct, right, is probably you're going to grip the wheel a little tighter. You're going to tense up a little bit
yeah.
more, right? You're probably going to have a little bit of pucker factor going on. Like it's way more intense, and like that's what we do for 4 hours inside of a race car. So yeah, I get on the topic too about like drivers being athletes. Like what we're doing inside the race car, like that physicality of like being tensed up and trying to make all of these very like specific movements. Like I'm not driving like this,
No.
cruising down the interstate. Like I'm 10 and 2, got a grip on the wheel. All my muscles are locked in because I want to make small movements like this so that I don't upset the car. If I'm in there just sawing on the wheel and stuff, the car is not happy, the tires aren't happy. And so I have to train for that. I have to work out. And I'm doing it in extreme conditions. It's 130 degrees inside the car. And it's not a pleasant environment to start with. And then you have all the fireproof gear on that we wear. I wear 3 layers. Our fire suits are 3 layers of Nomex. Then I wear Nomex underwear under it for fire protection. So, imagine being in your car in the summer. It's a 90-degree day, 100-degree day. You have the heater on full blast, and you're wearing long johns with a couple pair of flannel pajamas on over that. Like that's what I do for 4 hours.
Yeah. God damn. How does it, like, when you actually get out of the car? I mean, is it just bordering on like heat exhaustion, passing out, or?
Yeah. So through like my training and all the things that I do to prepare, and just doing it for so long, I have just really adapted to it. Like I can get out of the car after 500 miles, and I can run back to my motorhome, change, put my street clothes on, hop in my rental car, and head to the airport to fly home. And I can literally get out of my car and take off jogging. Like I'm physically fit enough to where the race does not just completely deplete me, right? It doesn't exhaust me to the point of exhaustion. And that has come through training, nutrition, hydration, like getting all of those things right to make sure that, I'm not falling out of the seat. I'm not hanging on for dear life at the end of the race because I can't take it anymore. It's
Yeah.
too hot or it's too physical or whatever.
But with retirement, are you gonna let that go? Just like go hard at like, fast food and put on the gut?
I there's no way I could do that.
Yeah.
No way.
I don't
Um,
know.
yeah. I'm too competitive just in general, and I enjoy feeling good. And I enjoy, being able to keep up with my kids and friends and stuff like that. So my friend group is all pretty athletic and physically fit and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't think a case of beer and some fast food on the regular is in my future.
Yeah, that's probably good. All right, so we got a few more minutes left. Dan Lacascio, sorry if I'm screwing that up, Dan. Another Almirola fan. He said, what are your like short-term and long-term retirement goals? And are you planning to be involved in motorsports in any way?
Yeah, I would say my short-term retirement goal is to be more engaged in my family. I want to be able to still provide for my family financially, and I still want to be involved in the sport maybe in some way. But I do, like, I feel like I've been blessed, and I feel like I have this really unique kind of cool opportunity to do things in reverse of what most people do. Most people work their whole life, and at 65 they retire, and then they live on their retirement and Social Security and all that stuff for 20 more years. And, then they've hopefully had a great life. Right. For me, I have been so lucky and so fortunate to do what I love to do and it be very financially rewarding, to where I've reached a point to where it's like, all right, when is enough? And at what point am I sacrificing other things just to try and make more money or accomplish more goals? And so I had gotten to the point to where I felt like it was that time. Like, I prayed about it and I talked a lot about it with my wife, Janice, and we felt like, all right, we're in a position to where I can take a step back, not full-time race anymore, and really be present in my family's life for the next 6 years. Right. And I feel like these are super pivotal years. I know they were for me, and you could probably relate to, but like from like 10 to 16, maybe 18, like those are really, really like pivotal years in a kid's life. And I want to be available and I want to be present in Alex and Abby's life during that time, because once they get car keys, and especially when they leave and go to college or whatever they do post like high school, like they're on their own. And I've got this time frame to kind of set the groundwork and like to be available and be present in their life, to be a positive role model and be an influence. And if I'm gone all the time racing and I'm popping in, Monday and Tuesday night and Wednesday night, and Thursday I'm back on a plane leaving, like I don't have a great opportunity to be as influential in their life 3 days a week.
And
so
you're constantly distracted, right? Like it's
constantly distracted.
It's just not.
You got that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that I'm home, I still have a ton of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, like, it's like, all right, I'm going to take my foot off the gas. I'm going to still do stuff. Like, I still want to be a human being, like contributing to society. I'm not going to sit at home in my pajamas every day, but I want to be more involved in my kids' lives for the next 6-8 years. And then you talk about long-term goals. My long-term goals is I want to go back to work. Like, I'm going to figure out something in the next 6 to 8 years that post my kids leaving and going off to do their own things. And then it's just me and Janice. Like, I don't need to hang out with Janice 7 days a week. We'd probably
that doesn't seem like the greatest idea. I see that with my parents sometimes, and you're like, I think they need a little break.
Yeah. So for me, like I know that there's potential to always still generate income in the future. And of course it won't be what it is now as a race car driver, but I'll still be able to get up, give me something that gets excited to get up in the morning and go do. And I watched my mom do that.
Like particular that is catching your eye or like you've thought about?
No, like I have a lot of things that I think about. Your dad challenged me to start a whiteboard and Post-it notes and start putting Post-it notes everywhere. I've got a few Post-it notes going with things that I think about or ideas. I know a few things. I know that I love racing. I know that I love people. I really, really like people and engaging with people. I like being outside and outdoors, and I don't enjoy like sitting inside in a cubicle or even in an office, like with fluorescent light. Like, I want to be outside, active, doing things. I want to have a schedule that allows me flexibility. And if anybody watching this podcast does this, to each their own, but I would be miserable if I got up every single morning at the same time, went to the same place of work, did the same exact thing day after day after day. Like, I have lived such the opposite life for the last 38 years that I would go crazy just like driving into work, going to sit at a desk every day.
It's crazy that you know that without doing it at all too.
Yeah, I know that I'm not capable of that. So
have you met my cousin Glenn? Because
that's a little bit too far the other way.
Yeah,
but I'm somewhere down the middle of the road where I need some flexibility. I don't mind going into an office setting, I don't mind wearing a shirt and tie every once in a while, but I also like wearing gym shorts and a t-shirt and being outdoors.
For sure. Well, dude, where are we at on time? You got to run here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, we got maybe 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, before we go, is there anything you want to plug?
No, I'm good.
Okay. You do have that new channel though, right? On YouTube?
Yeah.
For Aric Almirola.
Yep.
So check that out if you are watching us on YouTube. And thanks again, everybody, for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to rate and review us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that notifications bell so you don't miss any of our content. Trying to see if I have a bonus question. I got one from a educated listener.
All right, hit me.
Who's your favorite driver? Ross Chastain, Austin Dillard, or Christopher Bell?
Yeah, we all drivers keep a mental checklist, and my time is running out to make good on my mental checklist. But yeah, we'll see.
I think you might know that listener.
Yeah,
but dude,
long time listener, first time caller.
Exactly. Dude, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. If you are watching us, make sure to follow us on follow us on Instagram at FNF Pod. We're gonna leave you guys with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. Welcome to my wave pool, my wave pool. 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 Welcome to my wave pool.